Hi, everybody. This is Stefan Molyneux from Freedomain Radio. Back for, I think it's round 3 or 4. I have Gerald Celente, who is the publisher of Trends Journal, which is an excellent resource for understanding one man's moral outrage and crusade for rational, ethical, and economic common sense. You can find it at trendsjournal.com. As always, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so about 2 years ago, I put out a video, which is, I think, rounding on at 800,000 views, which is There Will Be No Economic Recovery. And I've received a few slings and arrows of outrageous trollery with regards to where is this crash that everybody with any Austrian or libertarian common sense has been predicted lo these many months. Why do you think? I mean, according to some people, I'm thinking Doug Casey, this eye of the hurricane, that we're kind of in the middle of this pause between here and a vastly different place economically. What do you think has kept all of this at bay, and where do you think we are right now?
Well, I was one of those people as well that believed that it was going to crash out. I had absolutely no idea of what was going on behind the scenes, nor did anyone else. When you look at the schemes undreamed of, whoever heard of quantitative easing? We didn't know that they were going to do that and keep doing it. Who would have believed? Who would have believed that they have not raised interest rates since 2006? And they're effectively at zero. And when you go over to the UK, the European Union, you have negative interest rates. That's right. You got enough money to put in the bank. I think it's like over 500,000 pounds. We're going to charge you to keep the money in the bank 0.25% interest rates. Look what's going on over there in Japan. Abenomics. Hey, Abenomics didn't work the first round. I got an idea. Let's do another one. To the equivalent of the United States pumping in, when you compare their GDPs in ratio, at a rate of $3 trillion a year. Same in China. They just lowered interest rates, 40 basis points. They're all pumping in cheap dough into the system to keep it going. And it's unprecedented in modern history, and they just keep doing it, and it keeps the Ponzi scheme going. As long as Ponzi gets new players to come in, he could pay off the old ones with the new dough coming in. It's all this is. And that's what they're doing in front of everyone's eyes.
And for the average person in the street, I mean, I think most people are feeling, obviously, there's been a significant decay in take-home income. I just read today that the federal government is spending about $30,000 a year on the average household, which, of course, is hugely more than they can possibly afford. The price of everything is going up, with the exception, of course, of oil at the moment, which we can talk about in a few minutes. How do you think what's the best way for the average person to see the effects of all of these, at least to the man on the street, fairly esoteric economic policies?
Well, the two things they look at: how much less money they're making and how much more money that 1% is pulling in. If there was anything that Occupy Wall Street did, was show the world that the 1% is getting richer and everyone else is getting poorer. When you're looking at numbers, 85 people, that's right, 85 people in the world have as much dough as 3.5 billion, essentially half the world. So what all of this money pumping scheme and cheap money has done, when you look at the equity markets going up, why are they going up? Hey, how about all those merger and acquisition deals that are going on? Oh, that couldn't be it. No, just borrowing money for nothing and keep the Ponzi scheme going. Oh, it couldn't be because of companies borrowing money cheap, buying back their stock and inflating the markets. So those are the two things to look at. You look at your personal wealth in decline, because here's the deal. Even if you're lucky enough to have what they used to call in the old days, when I was a young man, savings accounts, even if you had enough money to put into one, you're not getting anything back because interest rates are so low. So the only people it's helping are the ones that are helping themselves to all the low interest rate money. So it keeps the real estate scams going. Look, you look at mortgage rates, a 30-year rate, it's back under 4%. And even at that, there's not a booming growth in the housing market. Yes, there are growth areas throughout the world and throughout the country, but they're basically concentrated in high wealth areas. So if you're in New York City, yeah, welcome aboard. The money's flowing in from around the world. They're boosting the economy there in real estate, but go to other places that have never recovered from the real estate bust. So all of the money that's going in is going to the top. The facts are there. Median household income is below 1999 levels. You look at new home sales, the purchases of those, 40% of those used to be first-time home buyers. No more. That number's down to around 25%. Hey, how come? Well, because these kids are getting out of college with $80,000 in debt, $50,000, beginning their life's career like that. What are they going to buy? I'll tell you what they could buy. They could buy an automobile. How come? Well, step right up. No interest, no income verification. Don't have a job. Future stinks. Don't worry. Sign on the line and you'll zero interest rates for how long? So that's the scam that's going on. So the people in the real world know they're holding 1, 2, or 3 jobs, barely making ends meet. And you look at the job creation numbers. They're mostly low-paying jobs. So people know in their own lives, and then the lies come out of Wall Street that, hey, look at the markets. The equity markets around the world are booming. They're booming because of cheap money.
Now, there's always been, I think, historically a tension between Wall Street and Main Street. In the past, and this is obviously not a perfect, but a somewhat idealized, but I think economically sensible version of events. In the past, banks used to look for opportunities to invest, to create businesses, to help support businesses in their growth, and to create jobs. I mean, in the 90s, I was involved in a software startup. We took it all the way to a parent company, a company that bought us out, IPO. And along the way, having credit from financial institutions was helpful. You know, cash flow is king. You got to cover payroll and so on. And there used to be this idea that the manufacturing and the building of companies was like the pistons, and the financial institutions were like the lubricant, to keep everything moving, keeping everything growing. It really feels to me that over the past sort of 15, maybe 17 years, there's been a real reorientation of the financial sector to thumbjiggery through financial instruments, through tens of trillions of dollars in derivatives exposure, through being economic geniuses by getting money from the Fed and depositing it at the Fed and making a quarter point or so. Has there, in your mind, been a disconnect between the role that the financial sector used to play in the creation and growth of jobs, and now it seems to be just a bunch of spreadsheets and old-style Genghis Khan pillaging of the middle class?
We're coming out with our top trends for 2015. One of them is called bankism. This isn't capitalism. Nomi Prinz, who I'm sure you know, writes a lot on banking, is the person that's penning it for us. And we came out with the term and the concept that this isn't capitalism anymore. It's bankism. 4 words killed capitalism, if anybody missed it. Too big to fail. Period, paragraph. It's not the old banking system anymore. Bill Slick Willie Clinton officially killed it with the end of the Glass-Steagall Act during his reign as president of the United States. It allowed the banks to become casinos that gamble. It took away the regulations that were put in place after the crash of 1929 so that another catastrophe of that magnitude could not happen again. And who was the clown, the little low-life boy that cleaned up with about $140 million after he pulled the deal off? Oh, you remember him, don't you? Robert Rubin. Robert Sellout Rubin. Yeah, the former head of the Goldman Sachs gang, U.S. Treasury Secretary, along with the other guy that followed him, Fat Mouth Summers, Larry Boy. The Harvard guy gets everything wrong, makes a lot of money, and keeps blowing off his steam as though we're supposed to sweat from it. These are the people that destroy the country. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. All it does is take looking at the facts. And the facts are a bunch of people that are a disgrace to this nation, that are traitors to everything that this country was founded upon, sold it out for their own greed. And they sold out. You could buy these clowns out with enough money anytime, any place. And it's not only in America, it's a worldwide. Whether you go to China, whether you go to Brazil, jump on a plane. It's what's happened with the immorality of the leadership around the world. It's destroying the world economies. The money is being concentrated in the hands of a few. The rest are details on how they do it. If you want to look at the details, you keep going back. The deregulation of the Glass-Steagall Act is only one. Robinson-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act. Look, you even go to war without asking Congress. It's a complete bankism takeover.
Yeah, I mean, I have no particular problems with deregulation as long as people have to eat their own losses with Tabasco sauce. But of course, that hasn't happened. The too big to fail banks are now like almost 40% bigger than they were before the crash. And for banks to grow during a crash is quite unprecedented. Now it seems, I don't know if you've read this lately, now it seems that they're trying to push their derivatives exposures onto the taxpayers' backs. So there's a bill that's trying to wend its way through to continue funding the government past December 11th. And the banking lobby is trying to insert something in it that allows them to buy and sell derivatives through subsidiaries that are backstopped by the FDIC, that have taxpayer-funded insurance for their deposits, which means basically, again, it's the same thing. If I win, I win. If I lose, I still win because I can get the government to prop us up. And that, to me, is horrendous. If you want to be in the free market, be in the free market. But these guys seem to be just endless liquidity vampires on the soul of the nation.
It's not the government to prop us up. They are the government. Look who they are. You got a couple of front men out there, but when you look behind the scenes, it's all of them. And I mentioned Robert Rubin. How about that other cat who made the whole too big to fail thing a reality? Henry Paulson. And what's he doing now? Was he playing Frankenstein movies? You remember him, the Bush guy. It's one after another. Another Goldman Sachs man. Who's running the ECB over there? Mario Draghi. Where's he from? Oh, he used to run the European division of the Goldman Sachs gang. Hey, who's running the one over there in the UK? Carney. You know what the word carny is? That's an abbreviation for a carnival man back in the day. A con man. Another Goldman Sachs guy. Look, it doesn't take, a genius to figure this out, man. It's 6 words have killed America. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. That's who they are. That's their business. When are people going to call a spade, a